Hanji sir. So today I will discuss the topic petroleum. How petroleum is formed and where we use petrol. In this lecture, we will study about the petroleum. You know that petrol is used as fuel in light automobiles such as motorcycles, scooters, and cars. As we know, where we use petrol, we use petrol in the running automobile, just like motorcycle, just like scooters, just like cars. So petrol is used as fuel in the running automobile, just like motorcycles, scooters, and car. And this is the use of petroleum. Heavy motorcycles like trucks and tractors run on the diesel. And where we use diesel for running heavy motor bicycle, just like truck, this is a heavy vehicle, and tractor is also a heavy vehicle. For running these type of vehicles, we use diesel. Petrol and diesel are obtained from a natural resource called petroleum. So the petrol and also diesel, these are obtained from the petroleum. So where we use petrol? Petrol is used for running motorcycles, car, and scooters. And for running heavy vehicles, we use diesel. And how petrol and diesel is obtained? Petrol and diesel is obtained from the natural resource called petroleum. So petrol and diesel, this is obtained from the natural resource called petroleum. And the word petroleum is derived from petra plus oleum. So what is the use of petroleum? Rock plus oil. Petroleum is a mixture of petra plus oleum. So petroleum is mixture of petra plus oil. So as it is mined from the rocks under earth as shown in the figure 5.4. So what do you mean by petroleum and where we use petrol? Petrol is used for running automobile just like motorcycle, and for running heavy vehicles we use diesel. And petrol and diesel is obtained from the petroleum. And what is the full form of petroleum? Petra plus oleum. Petra means petra plus oleum. Petra means rock and oleum means oil. Petra plus oleum. Petra means rock and oleum means oil. As it is mined from the between the rocks under earth as shown in the figure. So how petroleum is formed? We will study how petroleum is formed. And petroleum was formed from the organism living in the sea. As we know, in the sea, there are tiny organisms living in the sea. And this petroleum is formed from the tiny organism living in the sea. And when these organisms died, then these type of organisms, they settled at the bottom of the sea and they got converted with the layers of sand and clay. So how petroleum is formed? Petroleum is formed from the living organism. They live in the sea. And when these type of living organism died, and then their bodies settle down at the bottom of the sea, and they are covered with the sand and clay. Over millions of years, absence of air under high pressure and temperature, they transformed into the dead organism into the petroleum and natural gas. So how petroleum is formed? Petroleum is formed from the tiny organism, and these living organisms live in the sea. When these type of organisms died, then they settled down at the sea and they got covered with the layers of sand and clay. And over millions of years, absence of air, under high temperature and under high pressure, these transformed into the dead organism, and just like petroleum and natural gas. So how petroleum is formed? Petroleum is formed from the living organism present in the sea. When these organisms died and then these settled down at the bottom of the sea, and they are covered with the layer of sand and the clay. And over millions of years, and in the absence of and the under high temperature and under high pressure, these dead organism is converted into the petroleum and natural gas. So under high temperature and pressure, these organism is converted into the petroleum and natural gas. So how petroleum is formed? When there are so many organisms present in the sea, when these tiny organisms died and these settled down, their bodies settled down at the bottom of the sea, and under high temperature and under high pressure, these will convert into these tiny or these organisms are converted into the petroleum and natural gas. So these will convert into the petroleum and natural gas. So how petroleum and natural gas is formed? Next is look at figure 5.4. It shows the deposit of net petroleum and natural gas. You see that the layer containing petroleum oil and gas is above that of water. And why is it so? Recall that oil and gas are lighter than water and do not mix with it. As we know, the figure shown in the 5.5, it shows the deposit of petroleum and natural gas. So this is the figure and how petroleum and natural gas is deposited. So this is a figure 5.4, and this figure petroleum and natural, how petroleum and natural gas is deposited are shown in the figure. Look at figure 5.4. It shows the deposit of petroleum and natural gas. And you see that the layer containing petroleum oil and gas is above that of water. And why is it so? So as we know, it shows the petroleum deposit of petroleum and natural gas. Figure 5 shows the deposition of petroleum and natural gas. You see that the layer containing petroleum gas, oil and gas is above that of water. Why is it so? Recall that as we know, oil and gas, these are lighter as compared to the water and do not mix with it. As we know, oil and gas, these are lighter and these will form a separate layer on the water and they do not mix into the water. So oil and gas, they are lighter than water, so they do not mix into the water. So they form a separate layer on the water. So again, I'm repeating how petroleum and natural gas is formed. There are so many organisms living in the sea. When these living organisms died and the body of these living organisms settled down at the bottom, and under high temperature and pressure, these will convert into the under high temperature and pressure, it will convert into the under high temperature and under high pressure, these will change into the petroleum and natural gas. So in the figure 5.4, it shows the petroleum and natural gas. You see that the layer containing petroleum, oil and gas is above that of water. Why is it so? Recall that oil and gas are lighter as compared to the water and do not mix with it. So as we know, in the layer containing petroleum, oil and gas, this is at above the water. And why it is so? Because oil and gas are lighter as compared to the oil and gas are lighter than the water, and they do not mix into the water, and they form a separate layer on the water. So in the yellow box, what is shown? The world's first oil well was drilled in Pennsylvania in USA in 1859. So first oil wells were drilled in USA in 1859. And after 8 years later, means 1867, oil was struck at Mukum and Assam. And after 8 years, then oil was drawn at Mukam and Assam. And where in India, where oil is found? In India, oil is found in Assam, Gujarat, Mumbai High, and the river basins of Godavari and Krishna. So in where oil is found? Oil is found in the Assam, Gujarat, Mumbai High, and the river basins of Godavari and Krishna. So as we know, world first oil was drilled in USA in 1859, and after eight years later in 1867, oil was struck out at Mokom in Assam. And in India, oil is found in the Assam, Gujarat, Mumbai High, and the river basin of the Godavari and Krishna. So where oil is found? Where the first oil well was drilled? In the USA in 1859. 1859 में जो oil well थी USA में drill की गई थी, उसके 8 साल बाद oil को हमने जो मकुम जिला है आसाम के अंदर, वहां से हमने oil निकाला था. And where oil is found? In India, Assam, Gujarat, Mumbai High, and then the river basin of Godavari and Krishna. So this is the location in India where oil is found. So what do you mean by refining of petroleum, and how petroleum looks, and what is the smell of petroleum? Petroleum is a dark oily liquid. As we know, petroleum, it is a very dark color liquid, and it has an unpleasant odor. It has very unpleasant smell, and it has a mixture of petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, and lubricant oil and paraffin wax. So what do you mean by refining of petroleum? And it has a mixture of petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, and lubricant oil and paraffin wax. So what is the color of petroleum? It is a dark oily liquid, and it has unpleasant odor, means it has unpleasant smell. इसकी जो स्मेल है वो बहुत बेकार होती है, and it is a dark color का जो oil की तरह एक liquid होता है. And in the petrol, it is a mixture of various components such as petroleum gas. In the petroleum, there are so many components, just like petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, lubricant oil, paraffin wax. So there are so many mixture of petroleum are found in the petroleum, just like petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, lubricant oil, paraffin wax. And how it looks like? It is a dark oily liquid, and it has a very bad smell. And this is the figure 5.4. In the figure 5.4, in the lower bottom, it is shown the reservoir rock, and next is water, and next is oil, and after oil, gas is found. And in the above wells are shown in the figure 5.4. So this is the figure 5.4. This is the reservoir rock, and get and in the bottom water, and then oil, then gas, then impervious rock, and then the well. And this is how petroleum is found. Petroleum is a dark oily liquid, and it has a very bad smell, and it has a various mixture of a component just like petroleum gas, petrol, diesel, lubricant oil, and paraffin wax. So this is a petroleum, and next is, what do you mean by refining of petroleum? If we separate the different components of petroleum, then this is called refining. So what do you mean by refining? If we separate various components of a petroleum, just like petroleum gas, just like diesel, just like paraffin wax, so this is called refining. And how it is carried out? It is carried out in a petroleum refinery. So it is carried out in the petroleum refinery. So it is carried out in the petroleum refinery. So if we separate the various components of a mixture, then it is called refined. It is then the if we separate the various constituents and fraction of petroleum, then this is called refining, and it is carried out in a it is carried out in a refinery. So it is carried out in a petroleum refinery. So various constituents of petroleum and their uses are given in the table 5.4, 5.1. So this is a table 5.1, and these are the petroleum constituents, just like petroleum gas, petrol, kerosene, diesel, lubricant oil, paraffin wax, bitumen. So these are the petroleum constituents. So these are the petroleum constituents, just like the petroleum gas, just like the petrol, just like kerosene, diesel, lubricant oil, and paraffin wax and bitumen. So these are the constituents of petroleum. And what are the uses of petroleum? So for first, petroleum gas is used as a fuel in the home and also in the industry. Next is petrol. And where it is used? Petrol is used in the motorbikes, and it is also used as solvent for the dry clean. And where we use kerosene? Kerosene is used as fuel for the stove, lamp, and for jet aircrafts. And next is diesel. And what is the use of diesel? It is a fuel for heavy motor vehicles, electric generators. So it is as a fuel for heavy motor vehicles, electrical generators. And where lubricant oil is found, it is used for lubrication. So it is used for lubrication. And next is paraffin wax. And where paraffin wax is, where what is the use of paraffin wax? It is used in the candles and vaselines. Vaseline we used in the winter, so it contains paraffin wax. And where bitumen is used, it is used in the paints, and it is also used in the surfacing of the road. So these are the petroleum constituents of petroleum. So what do you mean by refining of petroleum? If we separate the components of petroleum, just like petrol, diesel, kerosene, lubricant oil, paraffin wax, and bitumen, so this is called refining. And how we refine these products? It is done in the petroleum refinery as shown in the figure 5.5. This is the petroleum refinery. This is figure 5.5 is the petroleum refinery, and it is shown in the figure 5.5. And in this petroleum refining, petroleum is refined. So various components of petroleum is defined in the refinery. So next is various constituents of petroleum and their uses are given in the table 5.1.
श्वेता मैम, श्वेता मैम अनम्यूट हो गए क्या आप? श्वेता मैम,
हाँ जी सर, बोलो।
आप अनम्यूट हो गए थे, अब स्टार्ट करिए, बोलिए।
Okay. So this is applied to pipes. So such a network of pipeline exists in the Vandodara, just like Gujarat. Vandodara is present in the Gujarat, so it is supplied in the Gujarat. Some, and also it is supplied in the parts of Delhi and in the other parts of another places. So what is the use of CNG? It can be used directly in the homes, and it is also used directly in the factories. So it is also, this type of network of pipeline exists in the Vadodara, and it is present in the Gujarat, and some parts are also present in the Delhi at another places. So if you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask. So if you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask. If you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask.
श्वेता
Yes.
मैम,
हाँ
अनम्यूट
जी सर.
अनम्यूट कर लेना मैम, आप बच्चों को
Okay. So if you have any query regarding this topic, you can ask.
No, ma'am, no query.
थी कनिष्का। कनिष्का,
What do you mean by petrochemicals? What do you mean by petrochemicals? Raise your hands. What do you mean by petrochemicals? What do you mean by petrochemicals, Mansi?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, there are many useful substances which are obtained from petroleum and natural gas. These substances are called petrochemicals.
Very good. And what is the full form of petroleum? What is the full form of petroleum? What is the full form of petroleum? Raise your hands. What is the full form of petroleum? Mansi, roll number 51. What is the full form of petroleum?
Ma'am, the full form of petroleum is petra, which means rock, and the oleum, which means oil.
Okay, very good. And what is the use of paraffin wax? Where we use paraffin wax? Where we use paraffin wax? Where we use paraffin wax? Sneha.
Ma'am, we use paraffin wax in candles and Vaseline.
Vaseline. Vaseline में और candles में हम use करते हैं. And what is the full form of CNG? What is the full form of CNG? Sharda.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Compressed natural gas.
Very good. And what is the benefit of using CNG? What is the benefit of using CNG? Sanchi Bhatia. What is the benefit of using? Sanchi Bhatia.
Morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Ma'am, by using it, it is smokeless. It is eco-friendly.
Yes, it creates less pollution, so it is eco-friendly. Yes, very good. It is eco-friendly and it creates less pollution. And what are the products obtained from petroleum? 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 Yes, Sharda.
Ma'am, kerosene, diesel, bitumen, or
Yes. Paraffin wax, petroleum, bitumen. And next is where we use how petroleum is formed. How petroleum is formed. How petroleum is formed. Vansh Manuja, how petroleum is formed. How petroleum is formed, Vansh Manuja. Vansh Manuja, are you present in the class? How petroleum is formed. Yes, Sanchi Bhatia, how petroleum is formed.
Petroleum was formed by organisms living in the sea.
Yes.
When these organisms died, their bodies settled at the bottom of sea
Very
and
good.
got covered with layers of sand and clay.
And then due to high temperature and pressure, it will convert into the